Well, another great year has begun, and we have come together to celebrate the 12th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Countywide celebration. If you take a quick look at the bottom right-hand corner of your program, you will see a partial quote by Dr. King. "Courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite obstacles." It was this quote that inspired the theme for this afternoon, having the courage to overcome the mountain. Now, some of you might ask, what is courage? Well, I Googled it. And the Merriam-Webster online definition of courage is stated as follows: the mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. The year is 2013, and we are living in challenging times. Some might say more challenging than ever before. And the obstacles we face on a daily basis require that we what? Have courage. The courage to move forward. The courage to overcome discrimination in the workplace. The courage to say and do what's right, even when it's not popular. And 56 years after mothers sent their children to desegregate a dangerous and hostile high school in Little Rock, Arkansas, we still have to find the courage to send our babies out into a world that isn't always safe. With that in mind, it is the hope of the members of the MLK Committee that you leave this program uplifted, inspired, and with enough courage to keep it moving. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Todd Rent, and I am the Human Relations Officer at the City of Urbana. And I am here to introduce the Mistress of Ceremonies. But before I do that, we'd like to, this evening, to acknowledge our gold sponsor for this year's program, without whom this program would not be possible. So please join me in thanking Habib with Benefit Planning Consultants. And sir, if you could come forward, okay, I don't believe that he has arrived yet, so we're gonna move forward with the program. Oh, he's standing in the hallway? Okay. So he missed a very important point. All right, well, I think maybe we'll just move forward with the introduction. All right. I've talked to, our Mistress of Ceremony tonight will be Jennifer Roscoe, and we had a conversation, and we decided that I would not read her entire bio. But there are a couple of things I want to point out. She grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago and went to the University of Illinois, and she graduated with honors in 1993 and is fiercely loyal to the orange and blue. Jennifer is married to Tony and has 2 girls, Sophia and Tessa. She loves to cook, eat, which also means she must exercise, but it says she doesn't love to do that so much. You know, one thing I wanted to point out is that we've been doing this for quite a long time, and each year Jennifer takes the time out of her schedule to come here to be with us. She really doesn't ask anything from us, but she is always here. She is always engaged in what we are doing in this program. And I think as a community, we should thank her as she is coming up for her commitment to this program and to this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What he doesn't know, it's a little secret, I like it here. This is not, I love being able to come here, and a lot of times when you're covering a story, all you're thinking about is, okay, soundbite, is that a good soundbite? I have to write this story. I love being able to come here and sit and enjoy the music and enjoy the speaker. I was sitting here and I looked at Vasily next to me. I said, I can't wait to hear Ernest speak. And she goes, he's right here. So this is what I enjoy. I love being able to take time and to take a breather, and I'm so grateful that this room is full, because I think that is why we are all here as well. So thank you. Habib, you missed your big entrance, so I have to say, here's our gold sponsor. And I have something to give you. So come on up and get this. They wanted to thank you for being such a large part of today. Thank you. picture. Did you see that? Hey. Comes with the job. I do want to say, this week, I'm sure if you've been watching the news, there are some fallen heroes that everybody's talking about, especially if you watch sports. I'm not going to name names, so I'm so glad that we are here celebrating a true hero and a real hero and listening to his words. And today I was over at Robeson Elementary reading to some first graders, and after they got to ask their questions, I said, okay, I've got a question for you. I'm going to be talking to a big group of people today about Martin Luther King. And their eyes lit up, and they all went, oh, we know who he is. And they got really excited, and I said, what did you learn about him? What did he teach you? And one little girl said, be friends. And another little girl said, with all colors of all people. And I thought, if it could be that easy, wouldn't this just world be a better place to live? So if that is the simple message we walk out of here with, be friends with everyone. That's what we want to celebrate here today. We do want to, how about Mo Betta? Can they keep getting Mo Betta? I mean, over and over, they're just kids. I played the French horn in high school. I sounded nothing like that. They are incredible. Okay, we do want to get started. I know, Jennifer, wrap it up. Okay, so I do want to introduce Reverend Keith Thomas, Mount Olive Baptist Church, who's going to lead us in the invocation.
It is with great honor that we stand before you as we celebrate a legacy of greatness that has aligned our values with creating the beloved community. It is with that in mind that we bow in humble submission to God. Let's bow. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your sustaining grace. We thank you for allowing each and every one of us to gather here together as one united front, as we all endeavor to create the beloved community that you would be pleased with. We ask that in this great gathering, that you would be glorified in all things. We pray that every heart be touched and that we leave with a new fire and fervor, that we might be the one that will reach out and share the love of God with one another, that we all might be able to share as overcomers as we reach toward the mark of the high calling which is in you. It is in that name which is above every name, by which it is written salvation is available, that I pray. Amen.
I did want to recognize our event ushers here tonight. They are from the Human Relations Commissioners from Champaign and Urbana. Thank you for being here and scooting everybody into their seats and getting us started on time. If there are any public officials in the room, we would like to recognize them at this time. Please stand. I took time today, and they did as well, to be here. So if you would like to please stand up, and we would like to recognize you. Come on. I can see, I know who you are. Now, I'd like to introduce the following people, and they're going to come up and read the proclamation today. Mayor Don Gerard, City of Champaign. Mayor Pro Tem Charlie Smythe, City of Urbana. Chair Alan Kurtz, Champaign County Board. President Tom Ramage with Parkland College. And Vice President and Chancellor Phyllis Wise from the University of Illinois. Please come forward.
I am number one. Good afternoon and welcome. We have a proclamation which begins, whereas Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia, attended Morehouse College in Atlanta and Crosser Technological Seminary in Pennsylvania, was a student thereafter at Boston University, and who, following his studies, became a spiritual leader in his church, and
whereas Dr. Martin Luther King, as a spiritual leader not only of his own congregation but of millions throughout the world, espoused the philosophy of nonviolence to all mankind, and in recognition of his teachings was awarded the Nobel Prize. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King devoted his life to the advancement of civil rights and public service, recognizing that greatness can be achieved through the service of his or her fellow man. And
Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. encouraged all Americans to serve their neighbors, work together to unite their communities in his dream of peace and brotherhood. And whereas the citizens of Champaign, Urbana, and Champaign County shall honor his legacy each year with a day of remembrance in January that focuses on bringing people of diverse backgrounds together in an effort to break down the barriers that divide our state and nation. And
whereas this 12th annual Countywide celebration is a collaborative effort to commemorate the life and teaching of Dr. King that aids in promoting intergovernmental cooperation in Champaign County.
Now therefore we, Donald R. Gerard, Mayor of the City of Champaign, Alan Kurtz, Chair of the Champaign County Board, Tom Ramage, President of Parkland College, Phyllis Weiss, Chancellor and Vice President of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Laurel Lund-Prussing, Mayor of the City of Urbana, do hereby proclaim Friday, January 18th, 2013, as a day in honor of the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., having the courage to overcome the mountain.
Every year at this event, there are award recipients. These are people who are living the work that Dr. King has inspired us to do. If any past award recipients are here today in the audience, we would like you to stand and be recognized. And there in the back. And now I'm going to bring up Joan Walls with the City of Champaign, and she is going to tell us who this year's award recipients are. Joan?
Good afternoon. It is truly an honor. I'm Joan Walls. I serve as the Deputy City Manager for Community Relations for the City of Champaign. And I'm truly honored to be able to have this part of the job of introducing wonderful people who are doing amazing things in our community. And so this afternoon we have 3 combined awards that each entity will be presenting to our 3 award recipients. Our first award, I would like to introduce the Doris Hoskins Prestigious Community Service Award. This award honors individuals and/or organizations that engage in outstanding volunteerism and in doing so contribute to the well-being of the Champaign community. This year's award recipient is Ms. Tori Exum Johnson. We'll watch her video.
I must say that I am humbled, honored, and at the same time excited to be in your midst to receive the Doris Hoskins Prestigious Community Service Award. I would like to express my appreciation for the hard work of everyone in this room. We are only as good as those around us. I feel lucky to be able to work in a community with some of the most talented people in our area. This award represents all of those individuals who I have worked with side by side, connecting our many talents and ideas to improve our homes, schools, churches, and communities. Thank you so much to my family who supports me in my efforts to give back to the community. My husband, Marcus Johnson, who is supportive of me with all my many long nights and various meetings. My mother, Bertha Kent, who has always been an inspiration and a role model. My mentors, Elin Cole and Alicia Lowry, who helped me professionally, and all the other family members and friends who helped me along the way. As I accept this award on behalf of all of you, I would like to remind everybody that what we are doing today is planting a seed for the future. The use of our talents to help build our community, this community that our children and their children will live in, it is our responsibility to do all that we can to help them build a great future. I want to leave you with one of my favorite service quotes from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Everyone can be great because anyone can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't even have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Thank you again so much for this award. See you all in the community as we serve together, and may God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Tori Exum Johnson. Thank you. Our next award is the James R. Burgess Jr. Susan Freiberg Humanitarian Award. This award honors the humanitarian efforts of individuals and/or organizations that improve the human condition by alleviating suffering and contributing to the basic human dignity of those in need. This year's recipient is Crisis Line, a service of Community Elements.
On behalf of Community Elements and the hundreds of volunteers who serve our community through Crisis Line, I would like to thank the cities of Champaign and Urbana, Champaign County, the University of Illinois, and Parkland College for this honor. My work for the Crisis Line often involves reaching out to community groups, schools, and organizations. I am deeply moved by the courage of our citizens facing adversity and the warmth and caring offered by our communities. Building a community that is responsive to those in crisis is the goal of Crisis Line. We seek to accomplish our goal through the hard work and dedication of volunteers. Suicide is a tragedy for the individual, their family, and our communities. These tragedies can be prevented through coordinated responses from first responders, such as police and firefighters, mental health and substance abuse professionals, stakeholders, and caring community members. Recovery is possible with early intervention and accessible treatment. This year's theme is having the courage to overcome the mountain. Crisis Line seeks to guide persons toward the first step. For those who are overwhelmed and beaten down, a glimmer of hope and caring from the community is essential. Crisis Line provides tools and resources necessary to sustain the courage to overcome. We are deeply honored to receive this recognition.
And accepting the award on behalf of Crisis Line, a community service of Community Elements, is Ms. Benita Gay. And our final award this afternoon is the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Outstanding Achievement Award. This award honors individuals and/or organizations that work for social justice in the spirit of Dr. King. The principles of justice that Dr. King espoused, including promoting equal rights for all persons, regardless of race, religion, economic status, or physical or mental disability. This year's recipient is Dr. Francis E. Hejerica.
On behalf of the Physician-Assisted Student Success Program, also known as the PASS program in Champaign, I would like to thank the two cities, Champaign, Urbana, Champaign County, and the University of Illinois, as well as Parkland College, for bestowing this award on me. The PASS program has been in this community for almost 20 years. Our main goal has been to help medical students, as well as physicians, reach their goals and their dreams of being confident, competent, and very well organized clinical physicians. We have also been active in the community, especially with children. My heart is on the side of children because what I've always wanted to do is create opportunity for these children. I want children to have access. I want them to have opportunity. I want them to be exposed to things that may not have been exposed to because of their situation. I have been fortunate to have had two parents who have been encouraging. I have been fortunate to have very good employees who have stood beside me. And I have been very fortunate to have a successful business. And it is important to me because I've always believed that success is never complete, never truly complete until you turn around, reach back, and share it with someone else. And this is what we have tried to do with the PASS program in this community. My other strong belief is that as long as my wife is beside me, as long as Jesus is behind me, as long as heaven is above me, there's nothing in front of me that I would ever fear so much that I cannot move forward and succeed. Because this is my strong belief, I want every child that I come in contact with to have the same belief. We have to encourage our children. So from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the PASS program and its employees, I thank everyone involved for giving us this award. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ihejirika. And once again, on behalf of the 2013 Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Committee, we once again congratulate our award recipients and continue to encourage them to continue to do the great work that they're already doing in our community. Congratulations.
And I really hope that you get a chance to read through all of their bios. Doctor, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to be stealing that line. I like that. Husband beside me, Jesus behind me, heaven above me, nothing in front of me that I can't do. I like that one. And thank goodness, aren't you so fortunate? He kept saying fortunate, so fortunate that these people are in our community. Thank you so much. And so fortunate this man is here with us. I'm really looking forward to this. I have the pleasure of introducing Barrington Coleman. Just not going to read his entire bio, but this guy's been everywhere. If you take a look at this, he's here at the U of I, but he has performed at Chicago, the Royal Opera House, Venice, London, all over the place. But what I love, he is so very, very talented, but yet if you read, so giving of those talents. He could just record and sing and do his thing and that's it, but he doesn't. He helps high schoolers and college students and churches and community organizations, spreading that love of music to them and helping them get better as well. So I'd like to introduce Barrington Coleman.
To the hosts, all of those representing this auspicious occasion, the MLK Community Countrywide and Citywide celebration. It is indeed a privilege for me to have an opportunity to share in this program. And when I thought about a musical selection that would be appropriate for this celebration, I thought about the legacy of Dr. King and so many others who have been influenced by his magnitude over many, many years. This is a spiritual arranged by Jacqueline B. Hairston, and it's simply entitled, I Don't Feel No Ways Tired. I am seeking for a city, hallelujah. I am seeking for a city, hallelujah. For a city hallelujah, a city in the kingdom, hallelujah. There's a better day a-comin', hallelujah. There's a better day a-comin', hallelujah. When I leave this world of sorrow, hallelujah, for I'll join the holy number, hallelujah. I don't feel no ways tired, come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. Oh Lord, I don't feel no ways tired. Children, no glory, hallelujah. For I hope to shout glory when this world is on fire. Oh, glory, hallelujah. Oh, Lord, I don't feel no ways tired. Children, no glory, hallelujah. Well, I hope to shout glory when this world is on fire. Oh, glory, hallelujah. I don't believe he brought me this far. I can't believe he brought us thus far. I won't believe he brought me this far to leave me.
Anyone else in awe right now? And that is why he performs all over the world. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Okay, now we're going to bring up Vasilia Clark, the woman with the most beautiful first name from the city of Urbana. Vasilia.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a confession. Today I had an experience that was better than a pay raise. I had the pleasure of picking up our keynote speaker today, Mr. Ernest Green, along with Marietta Turner from Parkland College. It was quite an experience and it was most enjoyable. My job today is to introduce the keynote speaker. And in thinking about how to bring some historical context to actually just how awesome he and the other 8 students were and the role that they played in history, we decided we would do a video. So the first part of the video will provide the historical context, and then it will go into Mr. Green's actual accomplishments. So we'll get the video started.
Nearly 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, African Americans in southern states still inhabited a starkly unequal world of disenfranchisement. Jim Crow laws at the local and the state levels barred African Americans from sharing classrooms, public bathrooms, theaters, and public transportation with white Americans. In the United States, the separate but equal doctrine referred to legally sanctioned segregation arising, in part, from the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896. The court's decision allowed segregation solely on the basis of race. The results were separate dining facilities, restrooms, transportation, accommodations, and more, including public education. The Supreme Court's ruling assured that African Americans were not allowed by law to intermingle with white Americans. Equal rights remained virtually unattainable. In the 1940s and the 1950s, local NAACP leaders spearheaded plans to end the doctrine of separate but equal, and public schools became the means to that end. Their efforts would ultimately change the course of history. In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the separate but equal doctrine. The court's decision allowed for desegregation in the American school system. This landmark case became known as Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. In 1957, 3 years after the court's Brown versus Board of Education decision, a federal court ordered Little Rock's governor, Orval Faubus, to comply with the desegregation law. President Eisenhower ultimately dispatched the 101st Airborne Division paratroopers to Little Rock, and on September 25, 1957, 9 brave Arkansas teenagers broke through racial barriers to become the first black students to attend Little Rock High School. Among the 9 students was Ernest Green, who was a senior at the time. In spite of the very difficult conditions the students had to endure, 8 of the 9 finished the school year successfully, and Ernest Green graduated that spring. He was the first black student ever to graduate from Little Rock Central High School. In the audience at his graduation was the Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Mr. Green then went on to receive his bachelor's in social science and a master's in sociology from Michigan State University. He also received honorary doctorates from Michigan State University, Tougaloo College, and Central State University. Mr. Green has also received numerous awards in his lifetime. At 17, he was the youngest recipient of the NAACP's Spin Guard Medal. On November 9, 1999, President Bill Clinton presented Mr. Green, along with the other Little Rock 9, the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest honor given to a civilian, for outstanding bravery during the integration of Little Rock Central School in 1957. In 2009, Mr. Green and the other Little Rock 9 were guests at President Obama's inauguration ceremony. Mr. Green's professional accomplishments include his serving as Assistant Secretary of Labor for Employment and Training during the Carter administration and being appointed as chairman of the African Development Foundation by President Clinton. Prior to joining Lehman Brothers, Mr. Green was president of Ernest Green and Associates, a minority consulting firm that provided technical assistance in marketing, financial management, and economic forecasting. Mr. Green is currently the Managing Director of Public Finance for Lehman Brothers' Washington, D.C. office. Dr. King said in 1963 that the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in welcoming Mr. Ernest Green to the stage?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the makers of this video. We'll have to go on the road with it. My daughter, who is in the 20-something crowd, says I should open up the speech like this. I want to take a moment to tell you all this afternoon, I want you to go against conventional etiquette. I want you to take out your phones. Yes, really, put them on vibrate. I want you to tweet, Facebook post, take Instagram photos, share this speech with your social network. She tells me that this is something called live tweeting. I know that dictator regimes, social change, revolutions have all been brought on by tweets, a Facebook post. So as an agent of change, I want you to inspire your network of friends when you feel inspired and moved by anything that happens today. But in seriousness, I want to thank Ms. Clark, the members of the committee, cities of Urbana, Champaign County, University of Illinois, for an old Michigan State person. We'll get it together. In fact, I think Illinois plays Michigan State the end of the month, so we'll get a chance to cheer both sides. And Parkland. It is indeed an honor to be here today, and I think it's only fitting and proper that today we celebrate Dr. King's birthday a few days before the birthday, and that the federal holiday is also, as you know, going to be the date of inauguration of our 44th president for the second time. Today's young people have a phrase for giving recognition to those that most deserve the recognition as you did today. It's called giving a shout out. And I want to give a shout out to Crispus Attucks, Nat Turner, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Rosa Parks, E.V. Nixon, Dorothy Height, Thurgood Marshall, A. Philip Randolph, Daisy Bates, and countless others who paved the way for our 44th president. As the video said, 4 years ago, I was invited as a VIP guest to sit on the steps of the Capitol to witness the first swearing in of President Obama. And if any of you have visited the Washington Mall, you may have noticed that the Capitol is directly across from the Lincoln Monument, a mere half a mile away. And on that day, some 4 years ago, my mind drifted back to that hot August afternoon in 1963, As a recent college graduate, I stood in solidarity with all those gathered for the March on Washington. I listened, hanging on every eloquent and poignant word dripping from Dr. King's mouth. I soaked it up like a sponge, absorbing every drop of change conveyed in his speech. I moved when he said, "Now I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And here I was, 45 years later, I was sitting there to see that change, fully formed and embodied in front of me on Inauguration Day. The son of a white Kansas school teacher and a Kenyan businessman, President Obama truly personifies the hopes and aspirations of many named and unnamed ancestors who were stripped from the bosom of their homeland, who endured and survived the Middle Passage, who not only held on, but never gave up their dream of freedom and the desire to triumph against insurmountable odds. Those brave men and women whose tears, prayers, hopes, and dreams created the environment of hope that allowed President Obama to take the oath of the presidency. We cannot all be president, but we all can be agents of change. Now, an agent of change is every single one of you in this room. It is every person beyond this room. Agents of change came generations before you and still exist generations after you. An agent of change is a singular individual with the dream of a better tomorrow, be it for themselves, their future generations to come, or for all of mankind. It is that person that feels those slow burning embers that make a difference every single morning that they wake up. Those embers are stoked with every person they meet, every moment they live, every fiber of their being nudges these embers to burn brighter, because those embers turn to a fire, and that fire turns into an inferno, and that inferno powers them. Every man, great man or woman, be it the Nobel Prize winner with the hopes of changing the way we understand the universe, to the garbage man that wakes up every morning before the sun in hopes that his work will provide the means to open doors for his family, they all share something in common. Dr. King once said, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep the streets even as Michelangelo painted, a Beethoven composed music, a Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the host of heavens and earth will pose to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. I want to propose to you today 5 characteristics that I feel every agent of change shares. The first, when faced with an obstacle of a challenge, they ask themselves, why not? I was a junior at Horace Mann with a real love for jazz. In fact, I played in the high school band, a tenor saxophone, so watching this band today was really a high honor. I want to applaud them again. They were magnificent. But besides the music and being a student leader, I had a secret that was really a love for science. I saw myself at that time in the future coming up with the newest scientific breakthrough, being handed the Nobel Prize. In those days, segregation was the law of the day, and separate but equal was the face it hid behind. But as I looked around Horace Mann, there was a stark reality facing me, that the facilities were not equal, nor were they adequate for a future world-renowned physicist. I asked myself why we had the hand-me-down books, why we had the older equipment, why we seemed to be out of step compared to the renovated Central High School, which had a national reputation for excellence. I wondered why separate but equal seems so far from its term, and why the school, Central High School, was not open to me. When I knew they had the equipment I needed to make my dreams come true, and they were closer to my family home. So when the opportunity presented itself, I asked, why not? Why not go to Central? Why not challenge conventional wisdom? Why not challenge segregation? Why not prove to myself, my neighbors, my city, and my country that change is possible, that I would not let a little thing like segregation stand in my way of opening the world. During the summer break of 1957, a notice went out around Horace Mann asking for African American students who were interested in attending Central in the fall. Central was selected as one of the first cases to respond to Brown v. Board. Little Rock, Arkansas was chosen by the NAACP because it was considered a moderate southern city that already had integrated the University of Arkansas several years earlier without incident. However, as the summer wore on, Governor Faubus was facing a tough conservative challenger for re-election, and the rhetoric grew to a fever pitch. I think we saw a little bit of that this past fall. As the rhetoric increased, the number of potential students dwindled from over 125 to 10 to 9. A moment that always sticks out in my mind occurred a few weeks into the fall semester. A neighbor confronted me on the street, an older gentleman, African American. He called me over, and as I stood on my front steps, I was expecting to hear congratulations on my intention to attend Central, or perhaps a few questions about the experience. Instead, this man said, "Why do you kids have to go and do all this? You're just getting all these white folks upset, making it harder for the rest of us. You all gonna leave here, go to college, and we'll be stuck with this problem." Obviously, this man could only see the whys and what was happening at Central. Why do these kids have to do this? Why don't they know the problem this will cause for the rest of us? Why do they want to do this anyway? Little Rock wasn't like most southern cities. But he should have asked a bigger question. Why not? Why not change things for the better? Why not challenge separate but equal? Why not prove that all men truly are created equal and deserve the same opportunities? I knew I could meet the challenge because I thought of those who asked why not when obstacles came in their way. Why couldn't a black woman be treated the same as any other passenger on a bus? She worked just as hard as anyone else, and December 1, 1955 was the day to incite change. Why not? Why not allow that day to go down in history? Rosa Parks did not intend to get arrested as she made her way home from work. Little did the 42-year-old seamstress know that her act of civil disobedience would spark a fire that would start the modern civil rights movement, help end segregation laws in the South, and make her an emblematic agent of change. A second binding, similarly, is an understanding that change is constant, and how you adapt to it is paramount. Any law student or law enthusiast, a person who just happened to cross a few episodes of the TV show The Good Wife, knows one thing about the law. The law is consistent and solid, but it is forever adapting to the times. In the 1950s, Thurgood Marshall was a lawyer that practiced during a time when the law was constantly being challenged. Young Thurgood's father, William Marshall, instilled in him from a youth an appreciation for the United States Constitution and the rule of law. In the 30s, Marshall applied to the University of Maryland Law School, was denied admission because he was black. This event haunted him and directed his future professional life. He later attended Howard University Law School, and one of Thurgood Marshall's professors, Professor Hamilton Houston, constantly spoke of the need to overturn the 1898 Supreme Court ruling Plessy versus Ferguson. It established the legal doctrine calling for separate but equal. Marshall's first major case came in 1933 when he successfully sued the University of Maryland to admit an African-American graduate student. And later, as chief counsel for the NAACP, he amassed an impressive record of Supreme Court challenges to state-sponsored discrimination, including the landmark Brown v. Board of Education decision in 1954. He was an attorney for the Little Rock Nine. In fact, Justice Marshall spent a great deal of time in Little Rock and spent many nights in my family home, and we developed a great friendship. The law at that time was being used as a weapon to oppress and disenfranchise individuals. Thurgood Marshall individually knew that you had to adapt to change. Amendments were added, understanding of equality grew, and slowly the law adapted to America's understanding of civil rights for all. Thurgood Marshall, as you know, went on to be the first African-American Supreme Court justice. There he was, sitting in the ultimate seat of adaptability. He had the opportunity to direct change. He helped adapt laws to ever-changing times, and Justice Marshall was quoted as saying, "Today's Constitution is a realistic document of freedom only because of several corrective amendments. These amendments speak to a sense of decency and fairness that I and other blacks cherish." Now, change can be a slightly foreign concept to a teenager. Friends, parents, school, and daily life seem relatively routine and constant to a teenager. Neither I nor the other members of the Little Rock Nine were fully prepared for how quickly we had to adapt to our new circumstances and environment. What was normal before was flipped on its head. What we would consider normal by the end of the year was a far cry from where we started. We knew that there would be opposition. We knew people wouldn't like what we were doing, but we never fathomed what that truly meant. So to approach the school on that first day surrounded by screaming and cursing, mobs seething with its anger ever growing, let me just say we learned to adapt quickly. We learned to lace up our shoes every morning and prepare for battle. We learned that no matter how chaotic things got, we had to stay flexible to the changing climate. And that adaptation was the key to getting through every day. If we had continued to go to Central every day expecting that would have feel like Horace Mann, I personally do not think I would have graduated. I adapted to the situation that allowed me to stay above the noise and continue towards my goal of a high school diploma. Conventional wisdom says you have to go through some things in order to reach your goal. But I challenge that thought here today. From this idea comes the third characteristic. If something is in your way of you achieving your dreams, you may have to go around some things instead of through it. Many people have seen the iconic images of the Little Rock Nine being barred from entering Central by the armed Arkansas National Guard. Those images of teenagers being blocked by armed service members stuck with you. It's a harrowing reminder that hate is strong, and sometimes it is backed up by soldiers with armed, lethal weapons. After that first day, we sat at home for 3 weeks. The only concern I had was whether all that time out of school was going to keep me from graduating like any singular-minded high school senior. We could have been forceful. We could have insisted that an angry black mob fight our way into the building. That would have been the rash and quick judgment that could have put everyone's lives in jeopardy. However, we had been trained in nonviolent protests, cornerstone of Dr. King's resistance. It could easily be summed up as going around the problem rather than charging headfirst into all of the insanity. So we patiently studied on our own and patiently waited for an opportunity to present itself so that we could circumvent the angry mob camped outside of the school. I'm sure if we had been going through all of that now, there may have been some people observing would have called us punks for not fighting. And I bet some did at the time, but we waited patiently for 3 weeks. Our means of going around arrived in the form of President Eisenhower sending the 101st Airborne of the United States Army to enforce federal law to get us in. I'm glad we waited because those same paratroopers that helped liberate Europe, the Screaming Eagles, helped a boy from Pulaski Street get into high school. I don't know about you, but that's one heck of a way to show that going around the problem is sweeter than being bullheaded and charging through. Going around the problem isn't about avoiding a situation. It's about finding an alternative that is conducive to the mission. It's about waiting for the right moment to present itself rather than trying to force things to happen in your time. It took patience and faith to finally get into Central and make through over 200 days of school. As the school year wore on and the inevitable was coming to pass, I would graduate from Central and our mission would be complete. There were tremendous tensions regarding my graduation. Rumors circulated that I would be assassinated if I attended. I was informed by the principal that I could opt out of graduation and my diploma would be mailed to my house. And of course, I refused that. So the day of my graduation, anti-sniper patrols were positioned on rooftops overlooking the football field. Helicopters swirled overhead. Bomb-sniffing dogs were dispatched. The audience was frisked as they entered, and I must say my classmates kept a healthy distance, I think for fear of being hit by some stray bullet. But in that audience, a little-known Southern preacher named Martin Luther King Jr. happened to be in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, speaking at a small black college, called my mother regarding attending my graduation. And what resonated with me internally were the words my mother often quoted, "God wouldn't bring you this far to leave you now." Later, when it came time to receive my diploma and I walked across the stage to the sound of deafening silence, I knew that the moral arc of justice had bent towards freedom and things would never be the same again. The fourth characteristic can be summarized as, no matter how big the obstacle may appear, you cannot let it stop you, no matter how big or how small. Sometimes your greater obstacles are set up for a great triumph. Or it is said today, let your haters be your motivators. Even now in current times, we see agents of change faced with seemingly unsurmountable odds. Malala Yousafzai, a young girl from Pakistan, likely never imagined that fighting for equal education would conversely involve her fighting for her life. Her blog advocating women's education caught the attention of the Taliban, and they chose violent means to try and silence her voice. But when there are greater things meant for you, there's no weapon that can stop an agent of change. Malala continues to fight from a hospital bed, and I'm sure that she's released, she will continue her crusade for change. Lastly, remember you're not alone in this. It's easy to see the archival footage of civil rights leaders and listen to Dr. King's stirring speeches, or view the stark black and white images of him in deep thought, and forget that no man is born wise with all of the answers. In reality, Dr. King used his many interactions and experiences with people from all different walks to inform his worldview. From forming bonds with the family of Gandhi, to understanding the principles of nonviolence, to softening his message out of respect to President Kennedy, Dr. King demonstrated how one can use their connections and learn from them to further their goals. Although Dr. King is remembered as a shining star of the 60s civil rights movement, he was never alone in his struggle. Earlier, I mentioned the names of some people that paved the way for me, and there were individuals who paved the way for Dr. King. Deep down, everyone has a desire to make an inedible mark on the world, and every single individual helps clear the path for change, whether they realize it or not. Frequently, I urge my children, Adam, Jessica, and Mackenzie, to not only take advantage of their personal networks, but to reach out at those outside their normal sphere of friends. You never know when the person sitting next to you is the next Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, or Barack Obama. Get out of your comfort zone, befriend those beyond your normal group. You cannot be an agent of change on your own. You're going to need to traverse the road with you. But above the network is something my mother taught me. Remember where you came from and respect those that came before you. In this moment, sitting here right now, listening to me, know that you are the product of generations prior who hoped for more, far better, for greatness within their families. There are ancestors that you don't even know, whose blood, sweat, and tears flowed so that you could be here today. No man or woman is an island, so don't be afraid to reach out to those around you and reflect the work of the past and forge into the future. Before I leave this podium, I want to leave you with a quote from Dr. King. I want you to allow this quote to take root in your soul and blossom as you work to become an agent of change. Dr. King said, "I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood could never become a reality." And he said, and I close, "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word." Thank you, and God bless you.
I think I can speak for everyone in this room. Thank you to you and the courage that you had. We are so grateful. The bravest man, one of the bravest men I think I've ever met, and probably most of us in this room can say that as well. Thank you. I wish we could fit 1,000 people in here to listen to what you said today. Thank you. And now we're going to close. I would like to introduce Otis Noble, Campus and Community Affairs Specialist with the U of I, and Kathleen Charleston, Director of Human Resources, Parkland College, for the closing remarks.
First of all, we'd like to thank very much our Mistress of Ceremony, Jennifer Roscoe. If you could help me in thanking Jennifer. And again, I'd like to say thank you so much, Mr. Green, for being with us today and joining us in our community, sharing your story and your inspiring words. It was wonderful. And again, we'd like to recognize and congratulate our award recipients in our community. If you could stand one more time so we could congratulate you one more time.
I'd like to first echo what Ms. Roscoe and Ms. Charleston said. Mr. Green, thank you for waiting. If it weren't for you and the other 8 from Little Rock, you know, standing up and being there and being patient in that time, A lot of us in this room probably wouldn't have seen the educational opportunities that we got a chance to see. So please, I'm sure everyone in the room would love to thank you. So thank you for what you did. I have the honor to also thank those folks who had the generosity of really helping us put this program together, and those are the sponsors for today's program. When I call your name, if you could stand up, I'd really appreciate that. Our gold sponsor, Habib, with the benefits planning consultants. If you could stand, Mr. Habib. Thank you again. From our silver sponsorship group, Burham Benefits Group, Busey Bank, Carl, Champaign Urbana Mass Transit District. If you all could stand, if you have representatives here, I'd really like to acknowledge you also. Well, we thank you. We thank everyone in the back. Thank you all. Also from our bronze group, I'd like to thank Champaign County Republicans, Champaign Regional Planning Commission, and Community Elements, Inc. If there are representatives here from any of those, we'd like for you to stand and, yeah. And also in the back of your programs, there are sponsors listed, and we'd like to thank those also. So if we could all again give a warm, thank you to all of those who sponsored and helped this program to come to what it was. I'd love for you to join me in that. Thanks.
We'd also like to let everyone know there's a reception immediately following this event. And we'd also like to thank and recognize the members of the planning committee who put on this event as well. If you could stand so we could thank you.
And last but not least, we want to thank all of you. You all make this so wonderful each year, and I thank all those folks who are part of that planning committee for allowing me and Mrs. Mix from the University of Illinois to be a part of this. We really enjoy our time planning this program, but it's always about each of you who are sitting in the seats. So let's give yourselves a hand, please. Also, I want to make sure that each of you, in your programs, you have a lot of different leaflets and flyers. There are a lot of events going on around our community involving a lot of different players, a lot of different great organizations and groups. Please make sure, if you have the opportunity, to come out and support. And now for our benediction, I want to bring up to the stage Reverend Keith Thomas with Mount Olive Baptist Church. And he's gonna take us on out. Thank you all again for coming out. Keep time.
Let's all stand. As we prepare to leave this place, it is my belief that when great minds come together, hear great testimonies of where we have come from, it is we who are in this room are challenged to walk outside of these walls and make this place a better place. With that being said, would we receive the benediction? Moses received from the Lord a word, he said, to tell Aaron and tell his sons, when you go to bless God's children, say these words: the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you, the Lord make his face to shine upon you, the Lord be gracious to you, the Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen, and you are dismissed.